So today we're taking a look at an ultra budget smartphone from POCO, and over the years POCO have been coming out with smartphones at very budget friendly price points, and today this is the new model that is aimed to provide users with the option to have a decent performing phone without burning a hole in your pocket. So the POCO C40 today is sent over to me by POCO for review, and although these were sent over to me, no money has exchanged hands, and this review will be based on my honest and unbiased opinion. So the C40 comes in two variants, and there's no official price announced by POCO, but the estimated retail price of this phone should be around $150 or about 660 Malaysian ringgit for the 3GB RAM model with 32 gigs of storage, and $170 or about 750 Malaysian ringgit for the 4GB RAM and 64 gigs of storage model. So the phone itself is priced at a budget smartphone range, so it's only fair we evaluate them objectively. And if you're interested in buying this phone, definitely check out my links below. So the C40 is a very nicely designed phone. Although they are an independent company now, they still have a lot of influences from Xiaomi in their design and build. So the phone comes with a very high quality build despite its price, and if you take a look at the rear of the phone, it's made of this PU leather type material which is very sleek and feels very nice when you hold them in your hands. And although it's not glass like some flagship phones, this backing material does feel pretty premium. So at the top of the phone you're gonna get the large POCO design, which is very synonymous to most of POCO's latest smartphones. And at the side here you're gonna get a two camera setup where you get a 13 megapixel main camera with a 2.2 aperture, which also comes with night mode support. There is also a 2 megapixel depth camera with a f2.4 aperture, which will be used mostly during portrait mode shots. Although there are 4 holes cut out here, one of it just says AI and another one is just an LED flash, so there are only 2 main cameras here. So the good thing about this phone at this price range is that POCO also includes a fingerprint reader at the back of the phone, which is slightly too high for my fingers when I'm holding the phone in my natural grip. Personally, I think physical non-under-glass fingerprint readers are still the most reliable, and in the case of the POCO C40, it is fast and accurate. So on the right hand side there is a volume rocker and also a power button, and on the other side you're going to get a SIM tray that supports dual SIM and also a micro SD card. So the C40 supports a micro SD up to 1TB of memory, so storage will never be an issue with this phone. And at the top of this phone, you're still gonna get a 3.5mm auxiliary jack, which is a rare scene in flagship phones nowadays, but I noticed that most budget phones still supports this, which is pretty cool. At the bottom, the C40 comes with a Type-C charging port, which is a welcoming feature, especially at this price point. The Blackwheel A55 that we previously reviewed still has a micro USB port, which is very annoying. And next to that, you're gonna get some speaker holes as well as a microphone hole. And finally, at the front of the phone, you're gonna get a teardrop cutout here with a 5 megapixel camera with a f2.2 aperture, but honestly, although the aperture seems big, there is still the factor of a small sensor size which makes the aperture not as bright, and we'll take a look at photo samples later on. So the main thing to shout out about the screen here is the size of it, because the POCO C40 sports a very large and long 6.71-inch LCD dot drop display with a resolution of 1650 by 720 at 268 ppi. So this is not a full HD display, hence it's only HD+. But don't worry too much about the resolution, because holding the phone on a typical viewing angle, the screen still looks pretty good and sharp. Only when you start to look very closely and pixel peep, it's when you will see that it's a little bit fuzzy and not as sharp. So the phone here comes with a pretty basic 400 nits of peak brightness, which is plenty bright indoors, but when you're using it under bright sunlight, they are not the brightest and it's a little bit difficult to use. So if I were to swipe down from here and put it to its max brightness, you can see that it's not really that bright and it's not blowing out my exposure, and if you were to use it under bright sunlight, it's honestly not the easiest to see. So like most LCD display, the screen is good in most viewing angles. As you can see from here, I can turn it quite a lot and you can still see it. Same goes to this side, and you can see that you can still see it very clearly. But the only thing that I notice is that the brightness of the screen from top to bottom will change. If I were to tilt it like this, you will see that the top gets darker and then the bottom is still very clear and visible. So that's the problem with a very long screen, right? So finally, the C40 also comes with a 60Hz display, so no 120Hz display here. But I think the processor is also not built to take that 120Hz refresh rate, because you do get some lag here and there once in a while, even with the 60Hz display. So the interesting part about the POCO C40 is that it's marketed with a very large battery, and the battery life is pretty decent. And personally, as long as a phone can get us through the entire day, that is pretty good, because personally, I always charge my phone daily because I don't like to wake up with half my battery life. So the phone comes with a large 6000 mAh battery, but what's important here is how good it performs. So I fully charged the battery at around 8 AM, and I continuously left YouTube playing videos from 8 AM all the way to 3 PM in the afternoon with notifications coming in, and the battery went down to about 47%. And keep in mind, this is with 7 hours of continuous playback on YouTube, and it dropped about 50+%. After that, I left my phone alone, and with notification coming in, basic stuff, all the way to the next morning at 9 AM, and the battery went down to about 27%. So standby performance is actually pretty good. So the POCO C40 doesn't support wireless charging, but charges pretty quickly with the 10-watt charger that it ships with. And if you have an 18-watt charger, this phone's also support it, and you can charge it up even quickly. So the C40 comes with a JLQ JR510 octa-core processor, which has a max CPU clock speed of 2.0 GHz with an ARM Mali G57 GPU. Personally, I'm not familiar with the chipset, but from experience, they are okay, but not smooth at times. General scrolling around, the phone handles it very well with some hiccups here and there. Keep in mind that this model I have is the 4GB RAM model, and occasional lag is still present. So one area where you definitely notice the lag is when you play 4K videos on YouTube, and I think it would be better if they would just remove the 4K option, because it's basically unwatchable in 4K. So here I have my mountain biking channel, and if you guys are mountain bikers and would like to check out my channel, I'll put my links in the description below and you can check them out. I do some mountain biking here and there. So currently this video is playing in 1440p, so if I were to change it into 4K, which is 2160p, you can start to see it lag down very quickly. So now it's rendering in 4K, and you can see even in YouTube, the 4K doesn't play back smoothly, and it's really quite a big problem here. So playing games like PUBG on this phone is possible, but you're not going to get the best graphics here. I'll have to run this graphics at the lowest settings in order to have a smoothish experience. Don't get me wrong, because you can still play games on this phone, but for demanding games like this, you're not going to be able to get the best graphics out of it. So if you buy the 3GB RAM model, the device comes with 32GB of internal storage, and the 4GB model bumps it up to 64GB. But if storage is a concern for you, you can always expand the storage using the micro SD card up to 1TB, which is a very nice feature to have. So the POCO C40 doesn't come with any water resistant rating, and I think in today's world we're so used to having water resistant phones that we come to expect them, but this is not a phone you bring into a thunderstorm. The phone comes with a Bluetooth 5.0 support only, and if you want to run your latest earbuds with Bluetooth 5.2 or 5.3, you can still use them, but they're going to be reverted back to using Bluetooth 5.0. The POCO C40 also comes supported with the MIUI 13 running Android 11, so hopefully we're going to see Android 12 here as well, but as of this recording of this video, there's no news about it yet. So the camera of the C40 is not the best, but then again, at this price point, we're not looking to find any flagship camera performance here. Sharpness on this camera is still good at bright, sunny environments, but when the light dims down, you're going to start to see noise and artifacts creeping in. Although POCO says that there is a night mode here, it's a slightly long exposure shot, but the quality of the shot isn't all that great as well, and looks pretty unflattering for the most part because of all the noise you get and artifacts you get. It's marginally better than the main camera when used in dark situations, so you got that going. So video mode on this camera is also not all that exciting. So if you're an avid videographer, you can see that this phone only supports 1080p at 30 frames per second or 720p at 30 frames per second, and this applies to the front as well as the back camera. So speaking of the front camera, so this is how the front camera looks like, and what you're going to get up here is a 5-megapixel shooter. It's pretty okay, it's decent looking. It's not too sharp, you don't get a lot of details, but at least there's a front camera for you to take selfies or maybe front-facing videos. So that's basically all the features you get with the POCO C40 camera setup. So despite just having a single bottom-facing speaker, the C40 actually has quite a loud speaker. So they are clear, they work really well, but don't expect any high-definition sound coming from them. And if you would like to listen to any lossless or high-res audio, the C40 also comes with a convenient 3.5mm auxiliary jack, so you can plug in your favorite wired earphones or headphones. And note that this device don't have a lot of power to drive audiophile headphones with high impedance, but you can still use any basic earphones and it should work really well. So is this the right phone for you? Well, if you're aiming to get a decent second phone at a budget price while rocking your main phone, then this is one option. And if you want to buy this for a parent who doesn't require a lot of processing power or modern smartphones, or they are not very familiar with technologies, then this would be another scenario. And lastly, if you want to get a kid a starter phone that they can use simply for communicating, simple social media, or you don't mind them destroying, then this would be that phone. So that is it for this review. If you find this video helpful, smash the thumbs up button, share this video everywhere, and if you haven't yet subscribed, do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.